Sean from St. Louis Public Library, and I'd like to welcome you all to Read It Forward with Deb JJ Lee. We hold these programs so our St. Louis community can meet amazing authors and get free books. We hope you're able to get a free copy of In Limbo at one of our libraries. We will have time for questions and a book signing after the presentation, so stick around for that. If you weren't able to get a copy of the book, don't worry, we have a few available here that we will pass out to folks who ask a question. Or is that true still? Yeah. Okay, we have enough, I think, that we should be good. This program is also being filmed, so the recording will be available on our YouTube channel at STL Public Library. Please check it out and share with your friends. Now I want to introduce our Read It Forward author. Deb JJ Lee is a Korean-American artist currently living in Brooklyn, New York. They have appeared in The New Yorker, Washington Post, NPR, Google, Radiolab, PBS, and more. Books they have illustrated include The Invisible Boy by Alyssa Hollingsworth and The Other Side of Tomorrow by Tina Cho. They enjoy reality TV, sparkling water, and pretending to be an extrovert. We are so excited and grateful to have Deb here to share their inspirations and stories. Please help me welcome Deb JJ Lee.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I was just telling other people that this is like my 6th, 7th time in St. Louis actually, because my first boyfriend went to Wash U and we were long distance, so I would like see him, but we don't talk anymore. Hi, so I actually divided these slides into like 3 different, this is the arrow key. Okay, I divide these slides into 3 different parts. So the first one is like just talking about like where I am right now, like who I am and how did I get here, because you gotta start from somewhere. And then I'll talk about the book, which is why I'm here, and I'll even read an excerpt, and we'll have time for Q&A. Just as a side note, I did like make these slides because I was like presenting in high schools earlier, so like this was geared more towards like the high school like range, so I'll be talking a lot about that, so just keep that in mind. Yeah, so how did I get here? So yeah, this is me, as you can tell. I am based in Brooklyn, New York. I am also a non-binary person, and I do use they, them pronouns. But most of the work that I do currently, I divide between commercial and publishing illustration. So that would be more commercial illustration. So what does commercial illustration mean? It basically means that you are illustrating for a client that might be like a brand or a company. Like you might hear from like Apple being like, hey, we have a new iPhone coming out. They won't say it like that, but like we have a new iPhone coming out and we want to do these illustrations that kind of show off like the brand new camera and how like crisp it is, and we need an illustrator. So when you see those like illustrations, like that counts as commercial illustration. You can also see posters for musicians as commercial illustrations. Advertising is also illustration, commercial illustration, sorry. So yeah, that's one part of it. The other part of my time is spent working on books. So I didn't write these books, but I did illustrate the cover for it. So usually when you see like these like middle grade YA books that have these gorgeous illustrations, someone had to do it, and sometimes it's me. And these are some, 2 of these books came out in 2023, and I heard all of them. 2 of them are definitely in the library right now. So that's really, really cool to see in real life. Sometimes when you have a chapter book, you see like little illustrations in it too, and those are called interior illustrations. You also need an artist to do that, so you might call on somebody like me or somebody else to do those as well. But why am I here? And it's to talk about my graphic memoir, which came out in March, and it took me 5 years to get it start to finish. So I started in 2018, and it came out in 2023. Another book I'm working on right now, which is like, I know this is being recorded, so I can't show the cover of it, but it's full color, and I finished it literally on the plane to Los Angeles last week. And it was just, like, that took me, I started this book 4 years ago, and I didn't write this one, I'm only illustrating it. Yeah, that was a journey, and that is coming out in September of next year, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, so that is me. This is me right now, as I mentioned. Like, I work mostly on my iPad, so I use an app called Procreate, It is my favorite app in the world. I love those people so much. They're so great to work with. I have done like commissions for them. Incredible people. But I had to start from somewhere, right? So these are some of the drawings I did in 8th grade. We didn't have iPads in 2010, and I was using like this little tablet that kind of connects to your computer, and I was drawing on Photoshop and using Paint Tool Sai, which was really popular back then. I don't know if it still is. And I would try to draw in like colored pencil or pencil drawings. And I got really, in 9th grade, actually no. This was me in middle school and high school. So I'll talk about the pencil drawings in a second. But yeah, I went to middle school from 2007 to 2010. So the picture on the left is actually me in 8th grade. And then I went to high school from 2010 to 2014. And then I graduated to college. But I was also a pretty shy kid. Like I started out as a violinist. Like I thought I was going to major in violin. It turns out I just really am not good enough, and I also don't like practicing. But yeah, I was the kind of person who, like, if I had to speak to somebody I don't really know, I would have to rehearse my words over and over again before I can like speak up and be like, hey, what's the homework? Or like giving a presentation during class was like a nightmare because I would start crying and you would hear me hyperventilating if I had to raise my hand. So doing this, like if I had to do this 10 years ago, like I would be on the floor. Like I would be so scared. So it took 10 years in the making of me being comfortable speaking in front of a studio audience, a live studio audience. So yeah, here are the pencil drawings that I was supposed to show that came later. But in 9th grade, I got really into pencil. Like I would draw like these like portraits, and I just got, I mean, you can tell this is 2010 because here's Justin Bieber in his prime and My Chemical Romance. Gerard Way, fun fact, Gerard Way was born in my town. But yeah, I got really, really into realism, and this is what I would do like 9th grade, a little bit 10th grade, 11th grade. But if you look at the book, there are some drawings that I did in high school that did make it into the book. So that's a doodle I did, that's a drawing I did, I think in sophomore year, and I show it as like a freshman year drawing, but I kind of lied, it's actually sophomore year. And I actually got a photo of it from then, and I just redrew it. Same with this drawing, I combined a couple drawings from senior year and junior year. So the top right was actually done during class, obviously, and it was done in my school agenda. So every year at the beginning of the school year, they would give us like a school agenda that we would have to write our homework in, and I used the one on the back page and just drew on it. The one on the bottom is like something I did for like a Lunar New Year contest in my high school, and I drew that dragon. So I kind of combined those two and put that in the book. I just had to redraw the entire thing because the quality of that is not great because it was 2011. But yeah, ever since then, I've been like trying to get better at drawing. I would use drawing as much as I can to like do my homework. So if I had an assignment where it's like I could draw, I would do that. Like one of the drawings on the bottom right is something I did for an English class. The one, the SN was actually for chemistry. Like we were each assigned an element to study, and I got tin. So I drew the Tin Woodsman because, and I believe, I don't remember what it's called, but the element for tin is SN, yeah, I think. Yeah, fun story. I was obsessed with this artist. Her name is Alice, and her handle is AliceXZ, and that's the same username. But in 2011, she like started popping off on social media because she was drawing like Sherlock. She was drawing Tangled, which came out then, and I just had a phase where I just wanted to be her so bad. Like I was like trying to copy her drawings, and yeah, and I just like wanted to be Alice. And then actually this year or last year, she followed me on Instagram or on Twitter. So I was like, wait, like I'm being perceived by one of my high school like idols, like that's crazy. And then I actually met her in real life at New York Comic Con this year, which was last month. And I was like, yeah, like I showed Alice like a drawing I did when I was trying to copy her, and she was like, yeah, I could totally tell like you were trying to copy me. But yeah, we became friends, and it's one of those moments where I feel like it's so sweet to be in a position where somebody you admired for so long like admires you back, or like they see you on the same playing field as them, and it's really nice to just kind of be in that position. And I hope everybody in this room like has or have had experiences like that, because it feels really nice. Yeah, so in senior year, this is the portfolio I ended up with for my high school, like going to art school phase. I was still doing pencil drawings. I was still trying to get my feet wet in like digital painting, working in pastels. And I was still drawing in class a lot too. So this one was my favorite one that I did. During health class, I held a scarf and I was like, started drawing it. Like I turned like a worksheet I got in health, turned it around, and I would just start drawing on the back with a mechanical pencil that I found on the ground or something. And yeah, I did that. And it was the next period, so I switched hands, and I kept drawing over and over again, and I put it down, and I was like, wait, this actually looks pretty good. Like maybe I should make a portfolio piece out of it. And then I strung some string through it, and then bam, it became a portfolio piece. But actually, if you pick that up and you turn it around, there's like stuff about like driver's ed or whatever behind it. So yeah, if you see people drawing in class, you never know if they're making their first portfolio piece. You have no idea. So I graduated in 2014, and then I went to college at Carnegie Mellon, which is in Pittsburgh, and I wanted to get into animation and illustration, but I didn't get into the school that I really wanted. So I went to Carnegie Mellon instead, which is still a great option. And Carnegie Mellon, if you're not familiar, is very heavy on the engineering side. Like, it's very common for CMU kids to work in Silicon Valley, which is what I did, where I was learning to design for Silicon Valley. So a lot of kids would end up working at like Google or Apple or like Facebook or whatever. I went to LinkedIn, which is a website that's more for finding jobs. And I was originally there to like do design features for like the LinkedIn users, but then they realized that I like to draw, and they're like, you should construct some illustrations and we can put them on the site. So that's what I did. I like kind of Frankenstein a bunch of illustrations together, and that was my job for a year. And then on my 1 year anniversary, I actually quit my job. And so I like to just like make jokes on LinkedIn like this, but I've been freelance ever since. And I actually found out, I mean, this is pretty, like a lot of people are getting laid off right now, and at LinkedIn, they actually laid off like 600, 700 people last week or 2 weeks ago, which is nuts. And I was telling my friends, like, if I were still at LinkedIn, I know I'd be one of the first people to go, because I know I was so useless at my job. So thank God I laid myself off before anyone else could lay me off for me. But yeah, ever since I quit, I got really lucky in the illustration industry, and I've been super lucky to work with people like Lego, Google, BMW, McDonald's. Actually, the BMW drawing is the one with the car. Like, they wanted an illustration for Pride, which is also commercial illustration. And I was like, can you pay me in a car? And they're like, no. So maybe next time. I mean, I live in New York, you need a car anyway. So yeah, so I want to take you through like an illustration I did for that I did recently, and this was actually a gig poster for one of my favorite bands of all time, actually, and it's Japanese Breakfast. And this is when I saw her October 2021, and now I got to illustrate posters for her, which is so cool. But yeah, I was so close to her, it was crazy. But yeah, I like know her content like the back of my hand. So she wrote Crying in H Mart, which I believe has been on the New York Times bestseller list for like ever since it came out like 2 years ago. I think they're making a movie of it now. But I watched her music videos. I know her aesthetic, and she's also Korean. And I actually did a poster for her before, like last year. But the poster I'm showing you right now is one I did this year. So I kind of like know her content pretty well, which is make things easier, but also makes things a lot harder, because I know so much of her content that I could really just make anything, right? So usually, the life of an illustrator, you'd hear from a client, they usually want 3 sketches, and they're 3 different concepts, and they don't have to be detailed. They're just like little like scribbles that you're like, yeah, there's a person here, and there's gonna be some flowers in the background. You probably want to write, like, in case it's not clear what it is. I've seen really accomplished illustrators just draw stick figures and be like, yeah, there'll be a person here and like a little person here, etc. They just want to know your idea. So Japanese Breakfast chose this one, which is a scene from like her music video where it's in shot in 4K, I believe, on YouTube, and so it's so clear. I can see her jewelry, her outfit, her nails. So it's just perfect reference photos for me. Unfortunately, the pose I wanted, which was her with like her, I guess her dead husband on her lap, could not be found in the music video, like with the angle that I wanted. So I had to do it myself. I had my like grown man boyfriend to like sit on, like lie down on my lap as if he's dead with a shirt, and that's how I figured out how like anatomically this could work. Like what is it like to have like a full grown man like on your lap? Like how does that like work with your shoulders and everything? So yeah, I took that sketch and then I made it into a more detailed sketch, which is me figuring out all the details of, okay, like I know there's gonna be like a string of pearls here, another string of pearls here. I'm basically solving all my design problems, like figuring it all out. And then I would do the actual line art, which is the, like, you can't really see it, but I'm gonna zoom in. So that's the detailed sketch I showed you before. That's the line art. So that's me being like, this is, thank you, Colin. This is like the final like version of what that is. And this is me being like super serious about it. And yeah, so as for colors, I knew, thank you. As for colors, I knew that the music video that I'm referencing was heavily based off of Rococo style paintings. And so I decided to do the same exact thing, like with the blues and the greens, I incorporated that into my own sketch, the color rough part of it, and then I would render the thing. And then I ended up with that. And then, yeah, so that's the same exact pose that I had, and I just like referenced like what my fingers look like, what does my hand position look like, what's most natural. Yeah, added the text, and then it was off to the printers, and it was distributed in London, which was sick. I've never been to London. That's really cool. But yeah, let's talk about the book. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the process of making the book. So what the publisher wants you to know and what I want you to know are, I think, pretty different. So to market the book, the publisher would be like, hey, this book is about Korean American diaspora. That's the main thing it's about. It's about how I'm not Korean enough for Korea, I'm not American enough for America, and it's like, where is that like balance? Like, where do I find that secret home that I've been searching for? I also talk about mental health, so there is a trigger warning for suicide in there. I also have a pretty unstable home life where my mom was like pretty abusive, and like Child Protective Services got involved at some point, or lack thereof actually. And racism, where you're gonna have racism in a book where if it's stuff about immigration, you're gonna have stuff about that. But what I want you to know as somebody who's been working on this book is that everyone, including you, is a flawed, three-dimensional human being. And you might be, and what that means is that you can be really, like nobody's the bad guy, right? But nobody inherently is evil, but nobody inherently is good either. Like, I want to be a good person, and I try my very best to be as, as generous and as kind as possible, but I mess up, and sometimes I mess up really badly, and that's like unintentional, but I understand that creates an impact on somebody, and you know, like that's, you apologize and you try to make amends, and you like hopefully make things as normal as possible, but sometimes they don't want that, sometimes they won't accept your apology, and you just have to be okay with that. And yeah, but vice versa, if you feel like someone has hurt you really badly in the past and they're trying to ask you for like forgiveness and you don't think they deserve it, you don't have to forgive them. Like there's multiple ways of healing, and sometimes forgiveness is not one of them, and it's okay. Yeah, so aesthetically, these are what the pages look like. But what it started out as was this comic I made on Twitter that was about, you know, not being able to speak the same language as my grandparents, and knowing the struggle of understanding that one day they're gonna die and I will never have had a single full conversation with them because we don't speak the same language. So that's tragic. And I posted about that frustration. It was 4 pages long. It felt like it took forever. Put it on Twitter, and that is actually how my favorite band felt. She, and her book, Crying H Mart, deals with very similar topics, so I guess that's why she found it relevant. Retweeted it, and she has a pretty huge following, so it kind of like went around the internet a little. And then my agent was like, oh hey, like because we were working on a picture book together, and he was like, wait, you like to make comics? And I go, yeah. And then, and he was like, yeah, like a graphic, you want to make a graphic novel? And like maybe 200, 300, 400 page graphic novel? And I was like, sure. So let's try that out, because 4 pages felt like forever to me. And I was like, yeah, let's see what happens if I try to make a 300 page book. So as a literary agent, he is the one who understands like how book pitching works. He was like helping me go through the pitch. So he requested that I need a bio, like I need past work, I need titles that inspired me, I need a synopsis, and also I need to make 15 different pages from the book of what I think the book could look like aesthetically, so the editors know what to, like they can like judge like your illustration work and what to expect if they take you on. So luckily for me, my top choice took me in as one of her authors, illustrators, and this book was supposed to come out in 2021. That was not going to happen because I draw very slowly, and it took so I had to request like 2 more years, because I'm like, Connie, there's no way that I can get this done in that amount of time. I need 2 more years, and Connie was like, sure. And so she gave me 2 more years. That's why the book came out in the spring of 2023 and not fall 2021. Yeah, so this is what the book pitch looks like. So you can see it's very noir. I'm literally using the color black to like draw everything, but this is a nighttime scene, so it works. But if I'm trying to draw in the daytime, like how am I, like, it's just gonna look a little weird. So I ended up making it a little lighter, which I'll show you in a second. But the books that really did inspire me were, one of them is The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick. This book came out when I was like 10 or 9, 10, 11. And having this book is thick, it's like 500 pages, 500, 600 pages. Half of it is pictures, and the other half is like text. So my mom let me buy it in Barnes & Noble because it's like, well, half of it's text. It's like a regular chapter book for me, so she let me do that. But then when you go through the book, like the book kind of operates like a movie because there's so many like hand-drawn images. And yeah, I mean, this is one of the first books where I looked at it and I felt like, wow, this is like, if I can draw like this, it's game over for everybody else. Like I made it, and yes, I was really inspired by him. And I think this also became a movie in 2011, and it got an Oscar, I believe, which was really cool, really beautiful. I think it was Martin Scorsese who directed it too. Another book series I really love is called Goodnight Poon. It's a manga, and I actually have a tattoo of it on my wrist because I love it so much. But I love the way that Inyo Asano draws backgrounds. It's very detailed, very concrete, but like the way he draws like people, like, I mean, especially the character is very simple, but if you're not familiar, Goodnight Poon is about, like, it follows a 10-year-old boy who is a regular human. Like, everybody sees him as a human except the reader, who sees him as a bird, and based on his mental state, like, his form changes. So if you look at the right page, there's like on the top right, there's like a little figure with like 4 eyes. Like, that's him at his most depressed, and that's the same character. But nobody ever finds out. Like, the reader, you as a reader never know what he actually looks like. I will say, if you do want to read this book, be very careful. It has every trigger warning you can think of. It is probably one of the most messed up books I've ever read, even though it looks so silly and fun and happy, but it's entirely not the case. Another book I really love is The Arrival by Sean Tan, and it is it's very thin, but it is all drawings from like pencil drawings, and it also is about immigration, which I adore, and this is an aesthetic that I really want to put into Limbo as well. And I actually got an email from Sean who was like, hey, I heard that you wanted to use The Arrival for as an aesthetic, like inspiration for Limbo, and like, thank you for doing that. Like, this really cut deep, and good luck with everything. But I really liked Limbo a lot, so I was like, oh my god, like, I've been perceived by another artist I really love. So that was another really cool moment, very good for my ego. So yeah, here are the 2 pages from the pitch, and here are the same 2 pages when I redrew them 3 years later, 3 years later, yeah. But it's like the same content, except my drawings improved, and I decided to use a lighter color. And part of the reason I decided to do that is I was really inspired by This One Summer by Jillian and Mariko Tamaki. I know Jillian drew these all in like black ink, but when you scan them in Photoshop, like you can change the colors of it. So I believe that's when they chose to make it like a purple, blue color instead of a black color, and it really makes a huge difference. So yeah, same pages, side by side, black, slate gray, blue color. But for the rest of the pages, I would draw them, like I would draw a sketch, I drew on paper, worst idea ever, because I would end up just drawing it on my iPad anyway. So I would scan them in and I would redraw them to make them a little bit more detailed, sort of like the Japanese breakfast poster I showed you earlier. It's basically me figuring out all my design problems along the way, and then I would render it out. And each page took me about 8 hours to do, and you think about how many pages there are in the book, there's 350 of them. I would do 4 pages a week, so that's a lot of weeks to finish the book. And then on release day, this is me when I found all the books in the bookstore, and that was like a really crazy moment for me. And then one of my book events, I had my really close friend Kate do the event with me. And this is like a thing where if you're an author and you release a book, you usually have a book launch event where you might invite somebody, and usually that's another author, to come up and like ask you questions in front of like a live studio audience. And this time I actually had Kate do it for me because Kate is in the book as well. So it was a really nice like full circle thing to do. It even got an award for Promising New Talent, and that's a picture of me crying on stage in front of everybody I admire. So that was nice. And then after that, or around the same time, I got an email from my superintendent from my school district. He was like, "Hey, I read it in Limbo, and I'm sorry you went through all that." And he knew that I was like talking about like how the high school that I went to wasn't that great for me. And he goes, "Do you want to come back to high school and talk to all your old, like the staff, like this district staff meeting, and do you want to talk to all your elementary, middle school, high school teachers about what went wrong and what they could have done to be better?" And I was like, wow, well that's really scary. And I did it. I was in an auditorium full of like hundreds of teachers from my district, and that was the opportunity for me to like confront all my old teachers and be like, hey, this is what I wish I could have said 10 years ago, and this is like what I wish but I didn't know how to say it, and this is what I wish I had more of, like in terms of like, I wish I had more kindness from teachers, like etc. Yeah, so that happened, same place. One of them is in Limbo, one of them happened in August, so that was fun. So here's some of my favorite reviews of the book, actually. That cover is beautiful, but the interiors are all blue tone. I opened the book and was immediately disappointed. Cover is stunning, art style is great too, but I expected it to be in full color. A certified bummer. Would have been 5 stars if it had been in full color. I showed these reviews to my friend, and she goes, it's kind of funny because I bet they need their regular novels to have colored lettering too, to keep them entertained while they're reading. I feel like the same people who made these reviews like refuse to watch black and white movies because it's in black and white, so, okay. And now we're gonna do the excerpt bit. So this part of the book, the context of it is that I just finished freshman year, I'm heading into sophomore year, and this time I almost flunked physics. I quit orchestra and I become like less like into music, and I'm more into art. And something that one of the nice things my mom let me do is go into Manhattan every Saturday to take art classes. And Manhattan, New York City, is actually 30 to 45 minutes away from my house, like by train, so that was like very accessible. Okay, sophomore year, no orchestra, no honor science classes, and this time, this is me going to the train station, going to New York through the New Jersey marshlands. I had a little more independence. Over time, I found my place in the art class. There's a seat for you upstairs. Did you bring any newsprint or charcoal with you today? Oh, do you want to borrow some of mine? I have extras from figure drawing. You sure? It'd definitely be Korean school. What I got there that I never had before. How about you start with that still life over there? Yeah, okay. It was a chance to be far away. See you all tomorrow. Don't forget, essay do-overs are due Monday. Hey, he gave it here? Yeah, same, this is yours. Second time this month, I think. Third. Do you think he really doesn't know? Is he just guessing every time? He probably thinks we're the same Asian girl, for sure. Speaking lunch. Hey guys, miss me? What's up? Guess who confused me with Jenny Park yet again? Oh God, yikes. Is he even trying? Jenny and I had Mr. M last year too. It's just insulting. Yeah, remember when I fainted in class and he tried to get her to try to talk to me? We don't even hang out. Weird, and you and Jenny look so different too. She's like born to be a model. She's one of those pretty Asian types, you know? And nice and cool and me? You're nice. When this happened in real life, I was mortified. It was just such a sad thing to hear. But she was the only other Korean girl in my grade. So it's like, are we being compared? It's a little weird. Thanks for inviting me. It's been a while. Yeah, Charlie's already seen it, so he didn't want to go again. Oh, and we should hold on to these. There she is. Maybe we can sell them on eBay in 50 years. You said pirates isn't that scary, right? This is Pirates of the Caribbean. Did you see the thing about the guy in town who got arrested for hitting a kid? Shoot, that sucks. Glad he's in jail. People can be so terrible. Who in their right mind would do that stuff? Okay, but do you think they know that violence and stuff is bad? What if they don't think it's a big deal because no one told them it was wrong? Or if that stuff is the only way they know how to deal with things? You know what I mean? So a serial killer might not know murder is bad, they're just evil. They should definitely know it's violent and they get arrested. They literally hurt people to death. But what if they're, never mind. Watching a scary movie. Kate, you said this isn't a scary movie. Like, what's with the octopus guy with the octopus guy, Davy Jones? Whatever, I hate it. This is fall. It's the art class in my high school. This took that panel took me forever, by the way, because I was like redrawing it, I was figuring out the perspective and everything. Anyway. Hey. Hi, yes, hello? Yeah, over here. I really like your drawing. Is that Spirited Away? Excellent movie. Yeah, thanks. Do you like Miyazaki too? Miyazaki, who's that? The director, he's so good, and there's so many more. You can watch them on HBO Max. This is the third joke I made today about that. I didn't know that. I really loved Spirited Away. Watch his others. Really? Like what? I can make a list. Huh? I'm so confused. It's like, anime? Anime? Quinn was someone I knew almost nothing about except that she was smart and could get along with anyone she wanted. But it didn't take long to realize she wasn't just trying to be polite. She was here to stay. Anywhere. I don't know, Europe? Everyone in the school and their dog has been, probably. Too bad I don't have a passport. My family's been in this town since it was built, we think. We've never left. You've been stuck in New Jersey your whole life? That sounds awful. How do you survive? How do you survive being in one place? How do you survive moving around all your life? I guess barely. Yeah. Do this? Okay. This is how much I care about New Jersey, but it also is how much it bothers me that I've been here my whole life. I'll just go when the wind takes me. So where have you been? A lot of places actually. Canada, Spain, Korea, but those were with family we'd always end up fighting. Dang. But Korea, huh? I never thought about going to Asia, but I like that it's far and different. It sucks I can't speak Korean. Sorry we don't speak in physics. This is an inside joke where we were in the same physics class and I would get like a D on a test and she would get like 105 and I'd be like, you get extra credit? What? It's very infuriating. Not this again. So, are you fluent in Korean? How do you say hello? That depends. Oh wait, don't Asian languages change based on formal or familiar stuff? Something like that, right? Oh, you can teach me. You can do that, can't you? That'd be so, so cool. I mean, only if you wanna. What's this room? I've never been inside. Oh, I eat here a lot. I used to be in orchestra, so it's okay. You don't have to join if you want to eat with friends, though. You are my friend. We grew closer as the months went by. This way. You have a dog you need to tell me? Her name's Bosco. She's nice most of the time. Oh, she likes you. And a lot of girls in Seoul get it as a grad gift. Weird. It's not weird, it's pretty normal. I might get it. You don't like your own eye stick? That's not what I said. Wait, I want to Google botched surgery of this. This could be you. I think I should get a Korean tutor. I really want to learn this stuff. I think I have enough money too. Ugh, I wish it was better, sorry. No, why are you apologizing? What's your opinion on horror? Bad. Perfect, let's see one. No! What about Ponyo? You mean Poltergeist? Ponyo's also on HBO. I don't know about Poltergeist. So what are you into? Ghosts, exorcisms, cryptids, slashers? They all sound terrible.
Yes.
I think I know my way home from here. You sure about that? Yeah, thank God it's warmer now too. Sorry you came all this way. What are you sorry for? Oh, I don't know. I guess it's more of a thank you than an apology. I just say it a lot. I've noticed. Just be careful, because when you apologize that much, it just becomes white noise and loses its meaning. It just makes people think you owe them, and you don't. So stop apologizing so much, okay? Thanks, Quinn. See you tomorrow. Tell the demons in your house I say hello. You're not funny. So yeah, that's the excerpt. But last things, this is what I was telling the high schoolers earlier, and I think it's just good things to keep reminding myself before I wrap up. But what I was telling them is that like the world is so much bigger than you expect. I felt like back then I was so trapped. High school was like the only world I had, you know? So like if something went wrong in high school, it felt like my entire world was collapsing. And it felt horrible, actually. But then I went to college, and then I realized that nobody cares how popular you are. Nobody cares like where you come from, or I mean, I think some people do, but nobody cares about like they don't care about the things that you think high schoolers care about, which made a really huge difference. And I realized that the suicide attempt that happens in the book, it happened on October 31st, 2013. And I realized that was 10 years ago. And I was just lying in bed realizing that like, dang, like 10 years ago, that was such a long time ago. And I remember thinking like, I felt so trapped back then, and I never would have guessed that I would be in the position where I am, where I'm doing the jobs that I love, I'm surrounded by the people I love, and my friends love me, I hope. And yeah, it's just like a place I never thought I would be in. And so yeah, things did get better, and I hope people who are suffering from depression feel that way, especially when you're young. Another thing I was telling people is that the kids in your class don't hate you as much as you think. And I really thought that people hated me because I was never invited to parties, nobody decorated my locker for my birthday, and I just felt really abandoned, and nobody seemed to care about what I was going through. But that wasn't true, because I met up with who I would call the popular kids in my school like 10 years later this year, and I never spoke to them. We just never had a conversation. We just like, I don't know, like we became friends like years later, and we would get coffee, and the first time I'd be like, hey, be honest, did people hate me? Like, was I really that unpopular as I thought I was? And every single time they're like, no, what are you talking about? Like, you were a nice person, you were funny, and you were quiet, and you liked drawing, but no one ever hated you. Like, you were just a regular person. And I think, honestly, if you're just a nice and honest person in like high school, you're fine. Like, people won't come after you. And if they do, it's just probably silly. The last thing I told people is that, hey, like, be nice to the kids in your class, or someone might write a book about you. You never know. So, sweet revenge. Thank you so much. We also have time for Q&A, and if we have extra time, I do have bonus content, but it's unrelated to In Limbo, but I think it's still fun to talk about. But yeah, no, okay, there we go. Q&A.
If you have a question, you can line up at the mic over here.
Yeah.
Get on in here.
Hi.
Hey there, my name is George.
Hi, yeah.
How's it going? I'm a big fan of In Limbo. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So I just taught a course on school visits, and the one thing I told all the students was don't do a reading of your own thing. And graphic novels are like the exception I now know, because that was like the coolest reading I've seen, where you do it like panel by panel. So it's just a general comment there.
Thank you.
Now I know, I'm like, if any of you do graphic novel, ignore that bit of advice, because kids will absolutely eat that up, and I totally eat that up as an adult. My question is not pertaining to me, and not even the book, actually. I was really impressed and inspired by your journey and kind of going to art school and stuff. And I have a little sister who is about to graduate
From art
this
school?
year from Parsons School of Design in New York.
Oh, my cousin went there.
Yeah.
She also just graduated.
Okay.
Maybe they know each
good.
other.
Yeah, and I don't know if you might identify with this, but she's just kind of like, I don't resonate with the working world at all. Like, I hate corporate structures and professionalism and all this stuff. And as someone who was in corporate and is now an artist, and I'm just, but like, I can't tell her, you can just go my route, because our route is not easy
No,
either.
it's not.
So I guess kind of, might you have any wisdom that you could draw from, especially as someone who went to design school, that could be imparted on someone like that, just like, hey, give it time, you're so young, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I suffered a lot working in corporate. Like, I had a really bad time. I had to call HR my boss, so it was like rough. But I worked in corporate for a while because I needed to save up money. And I mean, I will say I was in a really, really lucky position where I didn't have student debt. So that's also really important.
Yeah.
That I think comic artists need to be more transparent about their financial situation. So I worked in tech, I made money, and I was able to, and I got like my first book deal, and that was also another sum of money. So I was able to be in a position where I could quit early and know that I can just work a year without, if I could go through a year freelance and not get a single job, like I'll be fine. So I would just tell them that, like, if you have to work in corporate, it's okay. It's gonna suck. Maybe, but you might find something like valuable about it. You never know. But yeah, I mean, someone told me that, or I overheard someone actually saying this, but if you gotta eat if you want to make your best work.
Yeah.
If you're like struggling, but you don't have a job and you're trying to make work, it's not gonna be good. And I will say, like, freelancing and doing a full-time job was really hard. I mean, that was one of the reasons I also had to quit, was that I was not getting sleep, and I was not taking care of myself. So it just became a point, like, I can do it, I can quit, and it was just a matter of like when. So, but yeah, I don't think working in a corporate setting makes anybody less of an artist. I know plenty of people who've been working at like Facebook for like years, and they still have a pretty successful freelance career, but it's more of like good, here's 3 things, you can only choose 2.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations. But yeah, unfortunately for capitalism, we do have to like survive first before we can do what we love. So yeah, unfortunately that's the hard truth that I tell people that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I'm wishing them all the best after graduation in Parsons.
Thank you. I will let her know. Absolutely.
Cool, awesome, thank you. Any more questions?
Anybody else?
You can ask me about
If you guys want to start, like, you don't have to wait until the next person, if anybody has a question, wants to start a line or anything, but yeah, come on right on.
Please come on.
I'm a little short for this.
No, I'm the
Can you
same.
hear?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
There you go.
Hi.
Okay.
So first off, this book really resonated with me. I'm actually also a New Jersey Asian.
Where? Where in New Jersey?
I was in Bergen County.
Wait, you're in Bergen?
Yeah, I was in Ridgewood.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Ridgefield, and
Oh.
my dad works in Palisades Park.
Oh yeah, we go
Yeah.
all the time in Palisades Park.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of it, where it just felt like, it's not painful because it resonated. It's like, oh, I remember that exact type of experience,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. And I guess like a question that I had was just like, what was it like day in and day out, years upon years, just revisiting your high school experiences over and over as you're in the process of writing this? I have the luxury of just suppressing it, but when you make it your job,
Yeah.
it seems like that's a lot. That's a very unique experience.
No, you're so right. I think this is a joke I have with my friends, but I feel like I'm really similar to my mom in a lot of ways. The only difference is that I went to therapy. So in therapy, I talk about everything I went through. Like, I have to tell my life story over and over again because I changed therapists so many times. So it just became like another Tuesday for me of like, yeah, this traumatizing thing happened. My therapist would be like, what? And I'd be like, yeah, just it is what it is. So I think I became pretty not indifferent, but like callous to like, not callous, but more like I got used to this thing. I accepted that this all happened to me, so it wasn't that painful to draw it out because I felt like I drew it out in my head so many times. I will say the hardest part of drawing the book was drawing any happy moments, because I felt like I only remember the sad moments, and to make any happy moments felt like I was lying. So that was challenging because when we pitched the book, my publisher for second almost didn't take the book because it was too dark, and they're like, "You need to make this a little happier." But how? So I did try to incorporate any like neutral to positive interactions I had, and I think it made it more well-rounded. But yeah, the really traumatizing stuff that happened in the book, like I wrote them down as they happened, like literally an hour after these things would happen, I would write it down. So I still have the Google Doc version of it. So I was able to just like write it and like draw it exactly the way I remember. So yeah, I mean, it just, if I sit on it for a while, it feels like, damn, that all really sucked, but I don't think about it that long. It just becomes another drawing to me, if that makes any sense.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can talk about bonus.
Well, I do want you to do that, but I was just kind of curious about like,
Yeah.
do you do hand lettering stuff? Like with looking at the like Japanese breakfast, like once the text was on and stuff, do you ever do, because I had a lot of friends that did kind of illustration work that got their like steady job in just like sign painting and like lettering and stuff, and I kind of went down that rabbit hole of just like what all you could do, and I have books of typography and stuff, so I don't know if that's like interesting to you.
Do these friends go to Sam Fox?
No.
Okay.
No, this is actually in Oklahoma, but
okay.
I'm sure they love it
Sam
too.
Fox love their hand lettered stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, to answer your question, the Japanese breakfast poster, I license the display fonts, but like everything else, like the body text, I just handwrite it. Actually, the font I used for Limbo was my handwriting. Like you can actually make your handwriting a font, which I felt like Joker-fied by it because I realized that my font looks like Comic Sans, my handwriting, so I was just like, this sucks. But yeah, I wish I could be better. Like I drew the text for in the like the title and my name. That was all handwritten. I feel like my penmanship is like relatively okay for me to be able to get away with that, but for design and typography, I feel a little intimidated by it still, even though I went to design school.
Well, it feels so separate. Like I feel like graffiti or something is kind of where like I understand like visual mixing with text or whatever, but they've been like so separate in my head. So like when you go through making a visual book or something, you know, incorporating it that way, I'm just curious like how people think about it.
Yeah, so when I hand in the pages, I do have like text in it, but usually in the publishing house I'm in especially, we have a separate designer who was able to incorporate the text for me and like make it live text. So if something in the Google Doc changes, the text automatically changes in the page. So she's able to do that, and she was great to work with. But yeah, if I do have any typography stuff, I usually like ask a friend to do it for me because I'm so self-conscious about design now. Because I'm like, oh, did I forget it? But yeah.
Cool, very cool.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Colin.
But yeah, you should do some bonus stuff.
Yeah, I was able to do this in the last place we were in. But let's talk about the bonus content that I have. This is all high school related. It's not related to In Limbo at all. Well, one of them is, but yeah, I was just telling stories about like weird things that happened in my high school that is just stories I like to tell at parties still. So the first one is that on our first date, my boyfriend and I realized we went to high school together 8 years ago. So we met over a dating app, and then I learned that he lived 2 blocks away from me in Brooklyn, and we went on our first date. Well, actually, before we went on our first date, I noticed that he was texting me from his email, so I knew his last name. I was like, like, okay, Rissman. I actually know another Rissman from high school, and I wonder like how many Rissmans there are in the tri-state area. And on our first date, we like realized not only are we from New Jersey, we're from the same town, we went to the same high school, and we were in high school at the same time. And he was in band, I was in orchestra, so we were in the same room. We just never saw each other, and our high school is not that big. I think it's like 200, 300 people per grade, which is not a lot of people, and he was only 2 years above me. And when we sat down, I was like, wait a second, your last name is Rissman. Do you know a Zach Rissman? I was in a middle school play with him. And he goes, oh yeah, that's my brother. So yeah, it was just a really weird coincidence that we just happened to be in the same place at the same time. And yeah, so I went home that year. I went home that holiday, and then I opened my middle school yearbook, my 6th grade yearbook, and he was in 8th grade at the time, so we were both in it. So that's me in 6th grade, that's him in the 8th grade. And I was like, okay, and I closed that, opened my 9th grade yearbook. So here's me in 9th grade, same book, he's in the 11th grade. So I'm like, oh my gosh, he was here the entire time, and I just never saw him. And yeah, this is us today. I wish, it should be clear, he's the one on the right, not in the middle, just by the way, just making sure we're all set on that. But yeah, he's great. Yeah, we live together now, and he's awesome. Actually, tomorrow is our 1 year, 11-month anniversary, which is, it's been a while. I do count that. Okay, cool. The other fun factoid that I have is that, does anybody know about the Watch Your House case? No? Okay, well, I knew. Yeah, you know about it. Okay, well, for everyone else, I'll explain what it was. So around like 2014, there's a case that exploded in the media. Yeah. So I'll explain it for everybody else. But this family in this town called Westfield bought a house. It was a beautiful house, but then they started getting really creepy letters that were not postmarked. They were anonymous. They don't know who it was, but the letter would say stuff like, "Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family? Or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. Will they sleep in the attic? Or will you all sleep on the 2nd floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better." So Westfield is actually right next to the town I grew up in. And a lot of people I knew in my life like took piano lessons next to that house, or they lived like really close by. But anyways, very close to home. And then last year, the Netflix show came out. And has anybody seen the show?
Yes.
Okay, so do you remember like episode 6, there's something about an English teacher?
Yeah.
So he was based off a real guy, right? His name is Roger Kaplan, but in real life, his name is Roger Kaplow. And how do I know that? He was my English teacher. And they actually had an actor play him in the show. And I haven't seen the show because it's a little too real for me. I heard they portrayed him very accurately. That's all I'm gonna say. So why was Mr. Kaplow my teacher? Suspect. So he was one of those really cool teachers. When I remember, like everybody wanted him as their teacher. I was also the last class that he taught, so it was like, you have to get Mr. Kaplow because you get all the cool assignments. One of his really cool assignments is that, he didn't do this with my class, but he would have his students write letters to a house they liked, and he would tell them that he would write to a house in Westfield that he was obsessed with, and he would send more than 50 letters to that house. And he didn't do this with my class, but he apparently did this, and a lot of people remembered that. I was like, huh, that's a little weird. But it was also not that big of a deal back then because he would make us write like really crazy assignments for our class. Also, the last class he taught, again, was my class, and we graduated in 2014, which is also when he retired, and the same month that he retired, the Watch Your House started happening. So we're like, interesting. And his brother lived half a block away from that house, and I believe Mr. Kaplow also was raised in Westfield. So how is this is crazy, but how is this related to In Limbo? Well, actually, one of the assignments that he gave us was that he would make us write journal entries, and it was pretty clear that he is a YA author. He wrote books that eventually became movies, one of them which became a movie with Zac Efron in it. But yeah, so he's like a pretty powerful guy, but he would clearly use our journal entries as inspiration for his ideas, his books. So my journal entries, I wrote them right after all the stuff in Limbo was happening. So I found my Google Drive and I found my assignment, and I remember like I would write down everything that happened right after the fact. So then, thanks to Mr. Kaplow, I'm able to go back to my Google Drive and be like, oh, okay, so this is the order of events as I remember them fresh off the press, and then I would draw those into the book. So thanks, Mr. Kaplow. That's my bonus content for you guys. Thank you. I love ending a presentation with hot gossip. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. also the person that was Quinn in the book, she's now in the Secret Service. Just saying. It's crazy.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining us today. So just remember that a recording of the event will be available on YouTube at STL Public Library. If you want to get your book signed, we have a few minutes, so we're going to do that in the back. You can line up at the table. Thanks.